What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast. Today's episode, we are doing our very first edition of the Start and Sits for Week 1. It's going to be a great episode. Today, it is just me and Coach Jibbs. What is going on, Jibbs?
What it do? I'm doing pretty good. I just realized my phone's about to die, and I definitely need it for something. So, other than that, football's back, baby.
Yes, that is true. I can't wait tonight. Got a couple hours to go before the Dallas Cowboys and the Super Bowl champions, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, go at it. And before we get into some start and sits for the night, obviously there is the big breaking news, obviously, that just dropped probably in the last hour. Gus Edwards, Marcus Peters, likely both torn ACLs. It is not 100% confirmed yet, but at this point, it's you see the writing on the wall. It seems at this point Gus Edwards is pretty much going to be done this season with a torn ACL, which that is 3 season-ending injuries here, Jibbs. How devastated are you about this news?
I'm quite devastated. I definitely thought Gus Edwards was going to be a candidate, like we saw in the last show. I was definitely a big believer in him, but the Ravens, it's going to be a weird bunch of group. Like, I don't know who's going to be the main guy with all the names that's been flying around and the roster. I mean, the available running backs that are on the roster. So maybe more rushing yards for Lamar Jackson, maybe 1,500 this year.
Yeah, that could be the case for sure. It could be maybe it's a 2000 kind of season for Lamar Jackson. To be honest, I'm getting a little scared to even own Lamar Jackson, all these ACL injuries here. I hope it's not a trend that continues putting into the season here. But yeah, it's unfortunate. Gus Bus, I was ready to ride that train for sure. It seems at this point it's all unlikely that he's out for the season at this point. But we got to talk about who's left over of this mayhem there. You could start with Taysom Williams, the undrafted rookie out of this year's draft class, would assume to be the guy who takes at least the Week 1 mantle. Because obviously he knows the playbook more than anyone. They did just sign Trent Cannon, but he's a special teams guy. And then 2 guys on the practice squad right now. Obviously, we know Le'Veon Bell's there. He's, you could say, I guess, past his age, as we've seen over the last few seasons now. But Devontae Freeman did just sign there on the practice squad. So that's also interesting. He had some, I guess, okay moments with the Giants last year. It wasn't anything to brag about, but you have 2 at one point really, really good running backs in fantasy on the practice squad now. There is a report that Freeman is likely to jump to the active roster for this game on Sunday here or Monday. But Jibbs, I mean, if you had to pick one up, because you would assume that Williams, for the most part, is probably drafted or picked up at this point. But who would you rather have, Bell or Freeman right now?
I'm going with Bell. I think he'll be more versatile, even as bad as it sounds, comparing the two at their high age. But Bell didn't get that much wear and tear. I guess neither of them got much wear and tear last year. But I like how I think Bell could be more versatile in the offense, and maybe with the scheme they run. I know they do like zone running scheme, so I think Le'Veon will suit better than going up north and south running. But I think Le'Veon got more tread on the tires. That's what I'm basically saying.
He sure freaking does. I honestly might go Freeman. Honestly, I might go make some changes. I just added Bell in like all my leagues that I could, but I might make a switch to Freeman. To be honest,
why?
I just feel like Freeman. I feel like he fits the scheme better. Personally, honestly, I feel like Bell's approach as he kind of waits to find the hole. I just don't see that's what the Ravens kind of do on that offense there. You see J.K. Dobbins attack the hole. You see Gus Edwards run through the hole there. Freeman, I think, can do that, and I think it fits a little bit better there. Again, I think both are worth picking up right now if you can. It's not. I wouldn't. Would you bank a lot of money if you're playing in a fab league on these guys right now?
Nah, because they're probably on waivers now. If they're running, but
fab on like some of our leagues that we play in, but there are fab leagues out there.
It depends. Like if you're the Gus Edwards owner, you're definitely going to want to just kind of throw money on something just to kind of bolster your lineup back again. But I'm not going anything higher than 10%. So
yeah,
I would even like maybe 7% would be my max. But like, I'm not really dabbling that much. I know
Yeah.
like a lot of them have been picked up or doing their thing now.
Well, if you're in leagues with me and Jibs, you would know that me and Jibs probably have all these players already on our roster in the last hour. So if I didn't pick somebody up, Jibs did, and then Jibs didn't pick someone else, I likely did. So don't play in leagues with me and Jibs because we will scour the waiver wires very quickly as things go down. But yeah, it's unfortunate what's going on here with these Ravens team. I mean, Williams seems to be the guy right now. It could very much change the Bella Freeman. I mean, there's Latavius Murray out there. You know, Todd Gurley had made an appearance at some point. You know, people asking me already about Latavius Murray, and I'm just like, he hasn't signed yet. You can't say that he's going to go there. He might not go there. I know he's got, you know, name recognition and everything like that, but he just might not go there. So, again, I heard that Murray is waiting until after the week 1 game. So he might end up signing there afterwards. It's possible. But again, if you have roster spots, you're throwing up dart throws because we really just have no idea who's going to actually make the active roster by Monday. You know that Tayson Williams is on the active roster. So he's the main guy right now until told otherwise. We could be talking differently about this come week 2. But if right now Williams is the guy, and in week 2, it could either be Freeman, it could be Bell, it could be Gurley, it could be Murray. Who knows? But yeah, you take your shots on whoever you like the best. Honestly, it's just grabbing for straws right now at whoever's going to be the next guy that steps up there in Baltimore. So it's unfortunate. But yeah, you know, again, things happen. So it's time to get into week 1 now, guys. And, you know, we have our start and sits now. Week 1 starts and sits. You know, we're going to try to do things a little differently each week or so. Or I'm going to at least try to make it so that we give you guys as much content in a shorter period of time. We're not going to be here talking for an hour and like 20 minutes that, you know, we used to do in the off season. It's going to be a little bit shorter. So you guys get as much information as possible to start the season here. So we're going to get right into it here. So Jibs, I'll let you start first. Who is your QB sleeper of the week?
I am going with Baker Mayfield, and he is never my first choice, especially coming off of your draft season and it's week 1 and all of that stuff. But if you have a quarterback like Justin Herbert, who's playing a stiff defense like the Washington football team, you might want to consider the Baker Mayfield. I know he typically doesn't have that much volume as a passer, typically pleating like with the low 30 ranges per game, but I think them facing the Chiefs, the Browns facing the Chiefs this week, they're going to have to keep up and throw this game. We saw Baker Mayfield when the Browns weren't playing in tornadoes, windstorms, and all that good stuff, have a decent into the season last year. I think he could kind of keep that up with, I guess, some more weapons, especially having Odell Beckham back, but I don't know if he's going to be playing a full snap, but still having another weapon like that, I think he could have a good shot to get at least 21 fantasy points, and that's like for 4 point per pass and touchdown. That's why I typically play, but I think he can get to the 21 point plateau this week as a streamer. Sorry.
No. I mean, it's put up or shut up for Baker week 1, so we're going to see how good Baker really is, and I think he has the matchup to do it. So I like that, Jibs. My QB sleeper of the week is going to be Zach Wilson. I know there's a ton of guys I could have probably picked from, but Zach Wilson to me, again, if you guys haven't been listening to our podcast, you know I'm a big fan of Zach Wilson's game overall, and he's got the weapons around him, and he's got the matchup that's, I think, pretty good for him to start his, you know, rookie career off of outside of, you know, Trevor Lawrence. But, you know, the Carolina Panthers defense last season, you know, they weren't the best against quarterbacks, and they weren't a team that really caused a lot of turnovers. And with Zach Wilson's ability to be very accurate with the football, the weapons he has, like Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, even Tyler Kroft is an interesting guy. I expect Zach Wilson to be able to thrive week 1 as they kind of have a revenge game with Sam Darnold. And this could be a game that's low-key high scoring in it, and Zach Wilson could be a big benefit. So if you're looking for a QB streamer or just a sleeper in just week 1, I think Zach Wilson is someone who's very cheap and likely no one is going after this week 1, and it could end up putting a really big fantasy game up for you. And then Jibs, we go over to the bus now. Someone that we is kind of high on the list, but we kind of don't like for this week. Who do you got? You're on the mute, my friend.
I like the way you put it this week. It's not like just the plain old bus, but my guy is Josh Allen. Don't hate me for it. I just love playing with fire, and like you said, it's not a theoretical bust, but I'm just tempering my expectations this week. I believe the Steelers defense is good. They just paid T.J. Watt the bag, so you know he's gonna be playing on Sunday. And I know the Steelers lost some of their linebackers and a little bit of the defensive linemen from last year, but I think Josh Allen will still make plays running the ball, which will keep him as a viable fantasy starting option. I don't think he's going to finish top 3 this week. But the Steelers didn't even allow a quarterback to score 20 fantasy points last year in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues, and they didn't even throw for 300 yards. So that kind of has like a little standard indicator right there. I just don't think Josh Allen's it for this week for a high quarterback finish.
All my Josh Allen shares will be very disappointed if that's happening.
You're gonna be disappointed. You're gonna get your money. Don't worry.
He'll give me like 17, but he might, it's a tough matchup, so just take that in mind there for sure. For me, guys, my QB bust of the week is, I forget who I had. Oh, Justin Herbert. Duh. He plays the Washington football team right now. There's some cool names that they have out there for the Washington football team. There's like 8 left. The Washington football team is one of them. It's just kind of funny. I think the Red Hogs, like there's some interesting names out there. But going back to Justin Herbert here, I mean, yeah, Justin Herbert was a big surprise last year. And, the talks right now of Austin Eckler possibly not playing in week 1 could definitely be an indicator where it might be a bad week for Justin Herbert to start the season here. Defenses know about him now. They know how to get to him if they need to. They know how to keep him on his toes. And, this Washington football team was really good at stopping quarterbacks last year. And if anything, they've just gotten their young team that's gotten even better. So if you're looking to start Justin Herbert, he may end up disappointing you a bit and put up numbers where you aren't to your likings here. So just keep that in mind. If you're looking to start him, he could end up putting a very mediocre game up that doesn't give him a top 12 QB finish this week. So, and Jibs, let's talk about a couple other ones. And last year we did it was this player or that player, but just give us like a couple more starts and a couple more sits that you kind of like at the QB position. You're on mute again, my friend.
Honestly, I like Stafford this week going against the Lions, I believe. No, that's wrong.
No, he was on the Lions, but
yeah, he was on the Lions
against the Bears. He knows the Bears.
So. Yeah, I'm still sticking with that. I think Jalen Hurts is an unbelievable matchup against the Falcons this week. Some low tier guys, Trevor Lawrence against Houston, and then same game. I think Tyler Taylor could have a game because Jacksonville's defense didn't improve either. So those would be some sleepers and some good starts. Sits. Kirk Cousins. I think Cincinnati's Bengals defense improved a little bit. Dak Prescott. I'm kind of iffy on that Tampa Bay defense and how he hasn't really played much this season. But those are my two. I think everyone else is above that. It's basically some pretty good starts.
And I get to mention Kyle. What's up, Kyle? Sorry for not saying hi earlier, my friend. Appreciate you always tuning in for our show, man. But a couple other guys, if you just want to mention real quick, on my side here, some more low T sleepers. Sam Darnold, revenge game. The Jets, were one of the worst last year against the pass, and their secondary isn't that anything to brag of. Jimmy G could be an interesting one, but again, that could be more of a I can't think of the word I really want to use, but could be it's disappointment. It's not the right word I wanted to use, but I mean, the matchup, it looks great, but it could be a game where they're just running the ball constantly. So Jimmy G could be another guy. On the flip side, on more of a sit scenario right now, my boy Tua. I'm hoping he breaks the trend, obviously, as a Dolphins fan, but we know Bill Belichick is a tough guy to play against, and he will find a way to ravel you up on the defensive side of the ball here. And it could not be a great game for Tua to start off his 2021 season. So that's, in terms of fantasy, it might not be a great start there. So, all right. So heading over to the RB position now. Going back to some sleepers here, Jibs. Who's your sleeper of the week at the RB position?
Maul Williams. And this one is just because DeAndre Swift hasn't really practiced or played much during the preseason, and he's been hampered by a hamstring injury, which is never really good to start off the season. By the way, I don't think we got into the Austin Eckler thing, but He's been cleared by his coach, and he still has a tough matchup in the 49ers. And I still don't have confidence that DeAndre Swift will be like a workhorse or have a significant rushing attempt edge over Jamal Williams. So I think Jamal Williams could definitely lighten the load a bit, get a little bit more touches than DeAndre Swift, and could be a viable flex option if the situation gets worse. And if DeAndre Swift happens to go out for the game, you obviously know what you're gonna get. You're gonna get at least a high-end RB2. So that's how I feel about it, and that's my sleeper for the week.
No, I like that sleeper a lot there. I think that could be a really big. It could be big because I feel like they're going to have to. I feel they're going to try to rely on the veteran more over DeAndre Swift. Honestly, this week it could be that way. I'm not thrilled about DeAndre Swift in week 1, to be honest, but I think Jamal Williams could end up doing something really special on his end there. But my sleeper of the week is a guy we kind of mentioned already, but I think it needs to be set out there. Tayson Williams, the now starter for the Baltimore Ravens, now going against the Las Vegas Raiders. He's going to see 15 carries. He's going to see the carries in week 1. He may not be the starter come week 2. Who knows? But in week 1, you're going to get your bang for your buck for a guy like Taysom Williams. The man played very well during preseason there. I mean, he looked really good. And there was a reason he stuck on the roster there. And now that, unfortunately, a lot of injuries have occurred, he's the main guy there now. And I think with him knowing the playbook the best out of everyone on that roster at this point, he's going to see a good workload in week 1. And we know the Raiders last year, they were terrible against running backs. They weren't very good. And Monday Night Football game, they're going to try to put their team on display there and show what they're able to do, especially with everyone messing with their run game right now. They're going to be like, hey, we can run the ball no matter who's back there. And I think Taysom Williams steals a show, honestly, in week 1. So he's my guy for my sleeper of the week. So, and Jibs, we're going over to the bust, my friend. Who do we got for the bust at RB?
David Montgomery, and I know he should be in line for a decent opportunity running in the running game, but I'm not a big believer. I'm a big believer in the Rams this year. In totality, I definitely place a significant portion of a wager for them to go pretty far. So hoping that goes out. But I'm figuring the Bears are going to be playing catch up in this. Catch up in this game, and the Rams were a stingy fantasy defense in 2020. As long as they have Aaron Donald, any running backs going to have their work cut up for them. They only allowed 75 rushing yards per game on an average for running backs last year. And the silver lining for Monty this week will be if he could actually have a good involvement in the passing game. I think that's where he'll get some fantasy points or a good portion because they do allow running backs to catch 5 passes per game. So other than that, like if it's like a half PPR league, like I think it's going to be a tough outing for him. So I'm not really a fan of Monty this week and some of the site's projections on him.
Yes, I can agree that Monty's a good sit this week. But boy, Kyle's got a question for us, Jibs. Now, you had mentioned Jalen Hurts is a good option this week. He asked, should he stack him and Devontae Smith against that Falcon team? He would have to bench Juju, Mike Evans, Joe Mixon, or Chris Carson tonight.
My week 1 advice for you is always start your studs, unless they're hurt.
I would be okay, Kyle, personally.
Take Evans out. I don't like that.
I would take Juju out.
Juju?
I would take Juju out, honestly.
Yeah.
Because Juju, I feel like, presents a floor, and if you're looking for a floor play, I think that's Juju. But we don't know what Devontae Smith is able to do, and we know that this Falcons secondary is atrocious. And if we expect Hurts to take that big step like we were talking about, especially as a good start this week, he's got to throw the ball to someone. So it's a risky play, but it could also be a big reward for you. If you want to take that upside play, I think sitting Juju and putting Devontae Smith in, it wouldn't be a crazy move, honestly. I'd be okay with something like that if I had that kind of stack. If I wanted to get the stack.
684 and 1 touchdown.
684 and 1 touchdown for Devontae Smith? All right,
That's what I'm feeling.
Kyle, that's almost 20 fantasy points right there, man. So that's your cake at that point, my friend. But I would be okay sitting Juju for Smiths this week if I had to. All right, so back to my RB now. I think at this point,
the busty,
my RB bust. Yes. So my RB bust this week is Mike Davis. Again, I've never been a Mike Davis fan all season, honestly, but. The one thing I know about your Eagles, Jibs, is that they got a pretty good front seven there.
Hell yeah.
Fox is a beast, and I expect this Falcons team to be behind in this game very quickly. And I don't think Mike Davis gets more than 12 carries, if that, in this game here. And I just don't see him seeing enough work in the passing game to really do anything great. Again, the Eagles were really good last year against the run. Their team is back and healthy now. And I think if you start Mike Davis as an RB2 or even as a flex this season, I think not this season, but in this week here, it could end up being really bug trouble. So for me, Mike Davis is my bust of the week at the RB position. So Jibs, let's see. Do we have another question? There we go. Thanks, guys. Juju was the one I was thinking of sitting. No problem, Kyle, buddy. Right. So some other RB starts and sits, Jibs. Do you have any other people you want to mention at mine that you really like or dislike this week?
I love Raheem Mostert this week against the Lions. I think that defense is just another dog beater, dumpster fire. Kind of shaky starting like the Denver Broncos running backs against the Giants. Good front seven. Their defensive front seven is kind of underrated to say the least. And then don't think I have another. If I think of one, I'll definitely.
All right. So let's see here. I got a couple here. If Austin Eckler is good to go, I probably would sit him this week, honestly. I mean, he doesn't look great already. If he does start, I don't know if he plays an entire game here. I'd be sitting Austin Eckler this week because a hamstring injury is something that does reoccur. And if it reoccurs within such a short window right now that he's been out currently, he might end up playing the game, but end up leaving the game or not playing a full game. It might be okay to sit him, unfortunately, this week, even though he was probably your number one overall pick in your guys' drafts. And if Austin Eckler is out, I wouldn't start anyone from the Chargers backfield at all. I wouldn't start anybody probably from the Jets. There's too much stuff going around there. Gaskins is an okay start. I probably wouldn't start Damian Harris against that Miami front seven there. It is really good. I think they'll stop him somehow. Trying to think of somebody else here. Do you start Kareem Hunt, Jibs? Do you play Kareem Hunt as a flex? You're on mute, I think.
Wouldn't.
No?
I wouldn't. I think you'll have like at least a receiver that could get you the same opportunity.
Okay. I respect it. What about a guy like Tony Jones?
What?
Tony Jones, the new backup to Alvin Kamara. We can get a chance to talk about him, but against that Packers poor run defense last year, would you start him at all?
I don't think so. You got to see what his workload will be. He could just be getting 5 carries and you're just left with nothing.
That is very true. I can't argue with that.
I just can't be starting these waiver wire guys unless it's 100% they're the guy going into the game. You just don't know what the role is. That's why I was just kind of saying, start your studs.
And I respect it.
Don't get cute.
Don't get cute. Yeah, that's a good advice to take in early, especially in week 1. Don't get cute. Play your studs. I probably wouldn't start Tony Jones either. It just really doesn't make a lot of sense there. Trying to see if there's a couple other plays.
I hate Miles Sanders for season long, but I like him this week against the Falcons. I'll say that.
I do too. I think
while he's fresh.
Yes, that while he's fresh, I like that as well. Do you start the Cardinals running backs?
I'll start Chase
Edmonds. I'm okay starting Chase Edmonds. I think he's a good flex option this week for sure. I'm trying to think, who else could we talk about here? What about Josh Jacobs? Do you start Josh Jacobs against the Baltimore team now?
What was that? I'm sorry.
Josh Jacobs. Do you start Josh Jacobs against the Ravens?
I don't think I would. He'll be a flex for me, but I gotta sift through the options. He's not gonna be my RB2. I don't think for the week.
I'd be okay flexing him, honestly. I would be okay. I think he gets enough work on the ground in his volume. I'm okay with that. So, boy, Kyle said that he has to have Connor starting in a couple spots. I mean, he could end up being the lead guy there, Kyle.
He could be
very much well. We don't know. That's the thing. It's very unknown. So he could end up being the guy. And everyone's talking about Edmonds, and it could be Connor for all we know. So that's again. I probably wouldn't start him if I didn't have to. But if you have to, I mean, you should feel somewhat confident that it could end up being a good thing for you. So All right. So let's over to the wide receivers now. Wide receiver sleeper jibs of the week. Who do you got?
Michael Pittman Jr., and he is the number one option with Ty presumably out. We did have some news that Paris Campbell had a little. I guess he was limited at practice, to say the least. So, like it's kind of just pointing in the direction that he's going to be the guy for Carson Wentz's hobble ass for Week 1. But if you guys didn't know, Seahawks were just terrible against quarterbacks and wide receivers last year. They gave up 300 passing yards, which ranked second in fantasy. They gave up the 6th most wide receiver points. That's 34 PPR points per game. And they gave up the 3rd most receiving yards to a wide receivers per game. It's 205 yards per game. So if you're telling me Ty is out, Paris Campbell might be in and out, and they are just basically running wide receiver 4 committee and some tight ends, and Michael Pittman's going to be on the field, I want that. I think he's going to have a big portion of that 200 yards receiving,
Right. No, I mean, I can't disagree with you. I know I talked to somebody about starting Pittman. I was like, nah, like he's the wide receiver 1 on a team where there's no TY right now. They have to throw the ball. I mean, it's got to go somewhere. And I think Michael Pittman is going to be the biggest benefactor out of it. So I like that one there, Jibs, a lot. My sleeper of the week I went with Marvin Jones Jr. Against that Houston defense. I think Trevor Lawrence leans on his veteran very big in this first week of the season here. It seemed like I watched preseason again. It's not a big thing, obviously, all the preseason action, but it seemed like he loved to target him early on and often. And I think the way this game is going to go, which could be somewhat of a shootout kind of game, I think Marvin Jones ends up having a really good game here, and I think he's like outside the top 30 right now in terms of wide receivers. I think he can end up finishing as a top 24 wide receiver this week. So I like Marvin Jones as a nice sleeper this week in fantasy.
That was a good pick. I like that. You got me considering some of my options.
That's what we do here, man. All right. So the bust side of the ball here, who do you have as your wide receiver bust of the week?
Kenny Galladay, Odell Beckham.
Oof.
Just let's go on. My actual bust is Marquez Callaway. And on the flip side, to my Michael Pittman note, Callaway is another presumed number 1 option on their team. But unlike Pittman, he has to go against a top cornerback in Jair Alexander. Huge fan. And collectively, the Packers gave up the 3rd fewest fantasy points to wide receivers, just under 145 yards per game, which just equates to 26 PPR points, which Callaway could have a good chunk of, but I just think Jair Alexander's coverage on him, and I think even doesn't matter. Traquan Smith's going to be. I think he was out of practice today, absent from practice, so that kind of puts more pressure on him to kind of be that guy on the field. And you never know. Like, what if they just roll coverage and tells Jameis to beat us somewhere else? You don't know. Jair Alexander held plenty of good guys and locked them down. So that's just my take on why Marquez Callaway could be a best this week.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. Because unfortunately, I'm starting Callaway because I have to. But the same thing with Pittman. I feel like someone has to get the ball. And maybe he doesn't because they do have Alvin Kamara there. I did hear someone say that Jameer Alexander is more of a one-sided cornerback. So it may be possible if Marquez does get moved around. But again, who knows what this Saints team is going to do there. And if they keep him, especially on his side of the ball, it might end up being a bad day for Callaway, who we all love coming out at preseason. So, again, I don't hate it for sure, but I feel like he might end up just with the volume alone, end up beating that. But again, we don't know. So, for my wide receiver bust of the week, I went with Allen Robinson against that Rams core amazing secondary that they have there. And my reason is you have Andy Dalton here. Again, he's not a horrible quarterback. And, Allen Robinson did put 4 for 70 up last time around. But, it's week 1 of the season here. This Rams team is angry and hungry to want to, get back to what they were doing, 2 years ago. And I think he's probably going to be locked down on Jalen Ramsey most of the night here because Jalen Ramsey will move around a little bit on this field here. And it could end up being a night where it just doesn't work out for this Bears team. I feel like the Sunday night game is going to be really quiet and very poor for us, unfortunately. And I think If you have another guy with a better option, I know probably Allen Robinson is your wide receiver 1 or your wide receiver 2, whatever it may be. It could end up being a really bad week for him, and he could end up underperforming what we expect out of him on a more than a week-to-week basis. So for me, Allen Robinson is my bust at wide receiver this week. All right, Jibs, back to the other wide receivers now. Do you have any more wide receivers you really like? Other wide receivers you want to start? You sit.
I gave you some sits already, and if you didn't hear them, it's Odell Beckham, Kenny Galladay. Some starts I do like. I love T. Higgins this week. I love Jerry Jeudy. I love Devontae Smith. I love a lot of wide receivers. Robbie Anderson, revenge game. I think they're going to get that first touchdown. Just stick it to the Jets. And then obviously, people who are listening in right now, I love Antonio Brown tonight too. So.
Yes. If you're listening right now, Antonio Brown is a good one. Yes, it won't help anyone who listens to this tomorrow, but tonight, yes. What about the Bengals receivers? Do you want to start any Bengals wide receiver this week?
Tyler Boyd.
Yes, I agree.
I guess I'll start Chase too, just for the fact, but I have more. My confidence rating goes Higgins, Boyd, and then Chase.
Yeah, I think mine is still Boyd number 1. Higgins is right below, and then Chase is down just for week 1. I think that could very much change come mid-season. I wouldn't want to start Chase week 1, honestly. I'm not about it. What about the Steelers wide receivers? We talked about Juju as a guy you could sit. Do you start Chase Claypool or Deontay Johnson for sure, or?
I think you can start Deontay Johnson for sure. And depending on your league format, if it's like half PPR standard, I'll start Claypool. More PPR, maybe Juju, but those guys are just going to be all within your little flex decisions where you're going to be asking the Twitter sphere or whoever you love to figure out who you want to play. So I think those two are flex options for me. Okay. Or good wide receiver 3s.
I like it. A couple other wide receivers you could start sleeper status is Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuels against that line. Very bad line secondary. That's definitely a good play. Let's see here. Do you start the Brown? I don't know if you said Jerry Jeudy. I think you might have mentioned him, but Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. Do you start them against the Giants?
I feel confident. It's just it all depends though, because like the Giants definitely gotten better on defense, and they do have a decent secondary core to say the least. So it's not going to be easy pickings for either of them, but I still think that's going to be a game, and there's going to be some points there. So I'm not mad at Cortland Sutton, especially with them saying today, like, you got a nice little glimmer of hope that he's back on track. He's turned the corner from that knee injury, so you got to think he's ready to go. Right.
No, I don't hate that whatsoever. So let's see here. We got a couple other sleepers, like Brandon Cooks is a decent option. Corey Davis is startable. Laviska Shenault can definitely be a start. Some busts. I mean, Keenan Allen and Terry McLaurin, they play each other, and it's their tough secondaries as for week 1. It could end up being a fluke game for both of them, having a kind of underperforming game this week. I mean, I wouldn't sit them, but I just would be lower your expectation for their week 1 fantasy value. Going back down here a little bit, let's see if we can talk about some other guys. Like, are you okay starting Russell Gage, Mecole Hardman this week?
Yeah, as flexes, like low-end flexes, especially if you're playing in a 3 wide receiver league.
Decent flexes for sure. I think Hollywood Brown could be definitely a boomer bust flex this week. Let's see.
The week 1 specials.
Week 1 specials, yes.
She's wide receiver 2.
Get Sammy Watkins in your starting lineup, whatever you do. Mike Williams is probably a sit for me. Devontae Parker is probably a sit. Jalen Waddle, I do like as a sleeper.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. How do you feel on him?
I feel like Waddles, I think, is a good sleeper this week. Again, it's a risky start, a play, but he's definitely a sleeper for sure. Let's see. Is there anyone else I kind of want to mention here?
I was about the Patriots, Jacoby Myers.
I'm not interested in starting them week 1, honestly. The Dolphins do have one of the better secondaries in the NFL, so I'm not really that thrilled to want to start either one of them, any of the 3, honestly, that are there. So I'd probably lay off them this week, unfortunately. All right, so let's get over to the last part of our night here, the tight ends. So, Jibs, who's your sleeper tight end this week?
Mine is Tyler Higbee. The Bears basically were just atrocious against tight ends last year. I felt like from week 1 they're pretty much like past week 10. Like they gave up a touchdown at least per game, but they ended up averaging like 0.9 touchdowns per game, which was pretty remarkable for at their status last year. But second most points, they give up 12. 13 points, basically, PPR points to the tight end position. And basically, I like them because I think there's going to be points scored in that game. And there's no Gerald Everett. I know they had to lean on Woods and Cooper Kupp, but still, we've seen flashes. Maybe he is a flash in the pan, but he's shown that when he had the opportunity and he was by himself that he could be a reliable passing option in this game, receiving game. So we'll see what Sean McVay decides if he wants to roll in his little other tight ends. But for me, I like it. Higby this week.
I like that a lot there. For me, I'm going with Tyler Conklin, someone you could kind of stream and pick off waivers this week here. I know they just brought over Chris Herndon, but Chris Herndon has not been has been a disappointment up to past his rookie season here. And Conklin had some decent work last year, and he knows the playbook very well. And they play a Cincinnati Bengals defense that, well, was very favorable to tight ends last year. They were bottom 10 in terms of points allowed, not allowed, and I think with them focusing on the wide receivers and Dalvin Cook, Conklin could end up having a pretty solid week 1 game that gives him that kind of tight end 1 status that people are going to want to go out there and get probably after week 1 is over. So Conklin's my sleeper this week. So, and Jibs, your bust, man. Who's your bust this week?
My boy, TJ Hawkinson.
Ooh, okay.
And it's just because he's facing that feisty San Francisco defense. And last year, they only gave up 6 fantasy points to tight ends. That's like basically your low end, like waiver wire fodder. So TJ Hawkinson is definitely a good tight end. I think he's gonna have to have a lot of volume for him to kind of turn out a good game. And like the San Francisco defense was riddled with injuries last year, and now they have everyone back. And if they only gave up 6 fantasy points to tight ends last year, I only could imagine what they could give up now. So for me, it's a cautious approach. You'll still start him because tight ends are a dime a dozen, and he's a guy that you picked up within that first 6 rounds. So start him, but you don't expect what the projections are showing you. It's going to be a tough outing. He needs that touchdown, and they only gave up 4 last year. So it's going to be very, very tough.
And I respect that. Speaking of touchdowns, I think this guy is the only way he's getting a good game is through a touchdown this week, and it's Noah Fant, the Broncos starting tight end. He does play the New York Giants. The New York Giants were terrible against tight ends last year. They were better than average than most people gave them credit for last year. And with Teddy Bridgewater already throwing to Judy and Cortland Sutton, I would be scared a little bit that he sees enough target share to really put up good numbers week 1. I think he's going to be a guy all season who's going to be more of a touchdown bust kind of guy and just not offer us the tight end 1 upside that we think he's capable of because of his talent. But I think Teddy Bridgewater kind of holds him back a little bit this season here. And I think he ends up having a kind of a mediocre, poor week 1 that makes him not really favorable for us in fantasy. So Noah Fant is my bust of the week. So. All right, Jibs. In terms of some more, that's not the right one. In terms of some more tight ends and sleepers, is there anyone else you really like this week you want to talk about or dislike? I can name a few here. I mean, I like the matchup for the Eagles this week. I like both of them. A good play for them. I'm trying to think who else is here. Tough.
Tight ends suck. They're all gonna bust.
It's very tough.
But put it in perspective, I guess.
Dan Arnold, a really late tight end, I think could be interesting. Tyler, you mentioned Tyler Kroft, right? Tyler Kroft could be interesting. Trying to think of who else.
I like Logan Thomas a little bit better.
Logan Thomas should have a fine game. Some other ones. I mean, the guys I don't really care for. I mean, I don't know if I want to start either one of the New England tight ends, or maybe just Jonnu, not Hunter Henry just yet. I'm trying to think who else here. Eric Ebron's a nice sleeper. I don't like Jarrett Cook this much this week. I'm
Joe Brown.
Everyone else, I mean, the top guys are really good might side out of Andrews, but it's not the best week to really give you some starts and sleepers at the tight end position. So,
well, I'm going to ride with my boy Sleeper, Anthony Ferkster. There you go.
Anthony Ferkster. Okay, I guess so. It's not horrible.
I'm just throwing the name out. I just got to stick with my guy that I've been touting.
All right, guys. Well,
Jones killed it.
He did. Hopefully he does better than that. But that is our week 1 start and sits, guys. Please know if you want something else added to it. I kind of want to customize it so it kind of helps you guys out. Whatever I can do to, give you guys a better format for us to really give you guys more content if you want. I'm going to try to change things up next week and do something a little more creative, hopefully for us. But we thank you guys for tuning in, watching tonight. Week 1 is just upon us. Hopefully you guys get to enjoy Thursday night football like we get to do. And if you have any questions come Sunday, don't be afraid to hit us up on Twitter over at Coach's Fantasy. We'll be answering questions all Sunday morning. You can hit up me and Jibbs' personal accounts too over at mine's Coach Stephen P. and Jibbs' Hot Take Honcho. So if you want to hit us up with Twitter questions there on Sunday, please do so because we'll all be up there kind of just giving as much advice as we possibly can here for you guys. And as always, go follow our website at www.thefantasycoaches.com. We'll have some things popping out throughout the rest of this weekend here. Like I said, the fantasy coaches are trying to really up their game and trying to provide you guys as much possible content. We will be doing 5 episodes a week this year. You'll get the start and sits here on Thursday. We have our Dynasty episode on Wednesday. The assistant coaches will begin on Tuesday. Me and Jibbs' waiver wire show will be Mondays. And then for me on Sundays or Monday morning when you listen to it, I'll do my weekend recaps, a quick 25, 30-minute episode to kind of help you guys find out what the hell happened this past weekend because there's going to be a lot. So we appreciate you guys listening. We're finally here. Thank you for tuning in tonight. We'll be back on Sunday or Monday, depending on when you're listening. So take care, guys, and have a great one.
Get back soon, Austin Eckler.